Hey, welcome everybody. Happy 2024. Hi, I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX and welcome to the first Q&A AMA of the year. This is where you ask me any questions that you have and I'm going to answer them. It's kind of my free mentoring. This will be archived on our YouTube channel. Other side, CX-CC stands for Customer Experience, Customer Centricity. And of course, we hope to catch more people joining our Patreon at patreon.com/CXCC. Hey, happy 2024 to Florian and Ana Lucia. So you might be wondering, what's with the funny time of day, Debbie? You don't normally stream at this time. Yes, I'm going to tell you more about that, but first let me remind you that you can send in your questions here in the chat where it'll show up on the screen with your name, or you can send stuff in anonymously or long stories up here at deltacx.com/links. There's a link from there. It comes into my email and I'll copy and paste it up. We do have two questions that came in earlier, but before I answer those, let's talk about why this stream is at this time. So I changed our stream time last year when I got a new job. I am really liking my new job, everybody. And I did not want to interrupt my workday to stream. And so I moved to before my workday started. But this became kind of inconvenient for, pretty much most of North and South America. So what we're going to do in the future is juggle times. Sometimes things will be at 3 p.m. Italy time, which is 9 in the morning for New York. And not that New York is the only place in the world, but I'm just doing a simple -6. And sometimes shows will be around now, which is 11 at night here in Italy, which should be the end of the workday for a lot of people, but maybe a better time of day for North and South America, maybe even our friends in Australia. Not great for our friends in India and some other places, but they'll prefer the 3 p.m.s. And again, these are always archived on our YouTube channel in a Q&A playlist. So you can always ask a question through through the link. You can use that 24/7 and just watch the stream later on YouTube. And of course, press like and subscribe, and your question will be answered. So let's put up our first question, and as we see if more questions will come in, so I'm keeping an eye on that. And the first question that came in was, what do you think about UX conferences, and how can I convince my boss to cover the expense? So first, let's answer the easier question, which is, how do you convince your boss to cover the expense? The first question is, do you have a training budget? Many full-time jobs do come with some sort of training allowance. Usually there is some sort of budget that is put aside for you. Sometimes it's small, $100, $200, $300 or their equivalent. Sometimes it's large. I worked at a company many years ago and my annual budget for training and conferences was $2,400 per person. I don't know if companies do things like that anymore. I hope they do, but it's a lot of money. And I know in times like these, companies are not giving out that money. So it might be the case where you don't have a training budget and you would have to convince your boss or manager to allow you to go to this event. First of all, many conferences, or second of all, since I covered first, second of all, many conferences do have a page on the website, not all of them, but many of them, which will say like how to convince your manager. And so check for something like that, because usually they've pre-written something like key bullet points about why their event is special or better or a unique opportunity, because it's hard for me to say without knowing which conference you're thinking of going to, is this good or bad or better? By the way, I changed some of my microphone setup. So if this doesn't sound good, please say something. Friends in the chat room, please say something. Don't leave me hanging here. I don't have headphones in, so I don't hear myself. You hear me. You can tell me if something doesn't sound right. So thank you for your help there. So as for how to convince your boss, that goes by the conference. Oh, good. Thank you, Florian. It goes by the conference. Some conferences are not worth it. We'll get to that in a moment. Some definitely are. How to convince your boss. I assume that in many cases you're going to a conference because you're hoping to learn something you didn't already know. Now that brings us to what do I think about UX conferences? I find that a lot of them are not teaching us something we don't already know. And I say that as someone who speaks at some of these events. Hypothetically, you can come hear me at a conference, or you can watch me on YouTube for free, and I say many of the same things. Sometimes the first time I say something is on YouTube. Sometimes the first time I say something is in a Medium article or my LinkedIn newsletter. Sometimes the first time I say something is in a conference. So sometimes you're the first to hear it and sometimes you're not. But ultimately, it's going to end up here. There is no way that I'm going to write an awesome conference presentation and not put at least some of it up on this channel one way or another. It might not be a live stream. It might be one of our webinars. Who joined last year for our webinar series? Wow, that went really well. We'll be doing it again this year. I'm still planning a lot of them. So the question is, what are you going to the conference for? Now, some people say, well, it's networking. I want to meet people. That can be a hard sell to a manager. Your manager doesn't care if you're meeting people. So I think you have to figure out, why are you really going to this? Is it something that you can attend remotely and maybe save on travel and kind of split the difference? Is it something that you have to attend in person? But I must say, in general, I am unimpressed by most UX events. I spoke at the Tech Circus Business of Design conference in November. Excuse me. And I thought that was a pretty good day. I've seen worse days. I liked UX Copenhagen, which I won't be speaking at this year. I wasn't selected. I liked UX Austria last year in Vienna. I'm not applying this year. It's happening during my belated honeymoon. What else? I'll be speaking this year at World Usability Congress, but I've never been there before, so I honestly don't know how good it is. But we like the Clemens. We like people who run it. So I think it's hard to answer this question because, what do I think about UX conferences in general? Many of them suck. Some of them are really great. Some I used to like and I don't like anymore. So it kind of depends where you are in your career and what you're trying to get out of it. But when I think about the great UX conferences that I went to, I feel like it was 10 years ago when we weren't watching a lot of UX stuff on YouTube. We weren't seeing a lot of strong UX content on LinkedIn or Medium or other places. And so my question is, do we still need conferences? Now, I tried to answer that in October 2019 by starting my other YouTube channel, Delta CX. Now we're over here on CXCC to broaden our audience and our topics from just the Delta CX original channel. But my goal was, what if you could go to a great UX or CX or product conference every day for free? And I now have 900 hours of content on YouTube. So and I'm making nearly $0 off this. So this is not a sales pitch at all. The ad money I make on Delta CX is donated to charity, and this channel I don't plan to monetize. So that being said, hopefully I've given you some thoughts on that. And I would say think about what you're trying to go to and why, because I don't love these conferences, and I think in many cases you can find the information somewhere else. All right, next question that came in ahead of time. Here we go. When working for a business as a UX designer, how realistic is it to be creating design solutions even when we have little data on users because of time constraints, and over time to get new data to refine the design late? Even for a high design maturity industry, I used to think that as a UX designer, we need to have a large amount of data to make something, like user interviews or usability testing. However, I just finished an apprenticeship program which taught me there is so much ambiguity and going with the flow at times to create a product due to deadlines. Okay, I think this person tried to answer their own question, but I will do my best. Oops, sorry, I'm redlining. Let's turn down my volume a little bit. I'm getting excited, so I'm getting louder. Okay, how's this? So I think this person tried to answer their own question. So here's the story. To me, an optimal UX process does include time, budget, humans, resources, tools, whatever it might be, to do that great research up front and multiple rounds of usability testing throughout your processes. That is the best way to go. That is high maturity. I'm not too sure what you're saying, oops, you're over here, about something being high design maturity, but not using data. I'm not sure that that would fall into my definition of high maturity. I think a higher CX or UX maturity organization would be working from evidence, data, and knowledge, rather than opinions, guesses, and assumptions, or let's just go fast, or seat of pants, or let's try some guesses and experiments. So sure, chances are your apprenticeship program might have been at a company that just said, we don't really know what users are going to like. We're just going to try some different things. Come on, everybody, go with the flow. Look, that is one method. Do I think that's the best method? No. Do I think that is a high maturity method? No. Does it sometimes work? Yes. Does it sometimes not work? Definitely yes. We know from all of the high failure rates that people are talking about that these types of approaches can be wastes of time, wastes of money, wastes of customer trust, and ultimately not as fast as we think. We're ultimately slow when we're going through cycles of guesses and guesses and guesses and testing them and then guessing again. I call it the guessing lasagna. Layers and layers of guesses. So, what is the question here? How realistic is it to create a design solution when we have little data on users? It's realistic because companies do it. If your question is this good? Is this recommended? Is this a strong process? Is this good human-centered design or user-centered design? No, I wouldn't say it's any of those. So, why am I a little blurry today? Blurry. Is that better? Yeah, sorry. I've been moving all of my equipment around into different rooms in my house. Sorry, I looked a little soap opera fuzzy there. Yeah, so ultimately, again, you might be working at companies that would rather work from guesses than from knowledge. It happens, but it's unfortunate. And I think it takes people to stand up and speak up and say, okay, look, we tried it that way. We tried not knowing. We tried having so much ambiguity. We tried having unanswered questions, but designing anyway. Did that work for us? Did that save us time? Did that accomplish our goals? Many companies will manipulate their goals to make it look like this is great. This really works. But are you winning customers? Are you keeping, where's our three things? Did I take them off the, yeah. Here's our three things. Are we attracting and adopting customers? Are they joining? Are they signing on without us having to pay them or offer them a discount? Do they naturally want to do business with us? What about customer satisfaction? Happy faces? Sad faces? How do we know? What tools or systems or surveys or measurements are we using to determine if people are happy with our company and our products and services, and how much granular detail do we have about that? Do we know why? And then, are people staying? Can we get them to be loyal? Can we convince them to stick with us? Not that they should need convincing. They should naturally want to stay with us because we're freaking awesome. Are we freaking awesome? If we're not freaking awesome, then congratulations on ambiguities and going with the flow and cycles of guesses and experiments and just ship it. it might not be working. So I really want to encourage people listening and watching to use that critical thinking. And when you see a process that is broken, it's probably broken. And even if you're an intern, talk to your manager. You don't have to get the whole team in a room and go, you suck and you suck and you suck and you caused this problem. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying go to your manager and say, I'm concerned about the way we do things here. We seem to be doing a lot of wasteful and risky guessing, and look at our outcomes. You know, everyone can say outcomes over outputs. Our outcomes aren't that great. We're having trouble winning customers or keeping them or making them happy or building what they need. We have all these complaints and customer support calls. I don't think we're really giving people what they want or need. I spoke to a startup last year, and the guy said, you know, we've had, in our 5 years, we've had about 100,000 users. And I'm thinking, this is great. Why isn't this guy further along? And he said, unfortunately, our data shows that our average user stays with us 1 week and then abandons their account and uninstalls our app. Something is not right here. Something's not right. He's able to get some customer adoption and attraction, but people aren't happy. They're not even staying a week. So, you know, there's lots of different techniques and methods you can use. And I just say be careful of the ones that revolve around a lot of, let's just go with our guesses, or I have an idea, let's just go with my idea type of stuff. I think we need to do more in 2024 to burn those to the ground and build up better ways of doing things. Where's my fire? Here it is. Still have fire, everybody. Those are all the questions we have. I know some people might not have expected me to stream this early in the new year. And yes, we don't have a lot of streams planned for January. We're going to let the world wake up slowly. But I am going to be doing office hours at old times and new times. So check our calendar. If you're not sure what's coming and when, go to cxcc.to/events and you can check out what's coming and when. Okay, Florian's got a question. I like the hand raised emoji. Okay, let's get this one on the list. I keep a list behind the scenes. It becomes the YouTube description. And let's paste this question in, and it's a good one. Okay, I have a question. Why did we come up with CX and UX nowadays? To me, they're the same thing. It's not clear why we're making a difference. Yeah, so I agree with you. I think that when these are done well, they are the same thing. User experience, customer experience. Now, some companies internally believe that the user and the customer are different people, and so we have to handle them differently. The customer is the person who pays us, and the user is the person who uses the thing. The example I often hear is, if you use Facebook, you're a user. But if you start paying Facebook to do advertising on Facebook, now you're a customer because you're paying Facebook. And what that normally means in a company is that the company is more focused on the person who's paying. And very often the user, who is the person who's not paying or paying less or however it might be, that's somebody who we can ignore or throw crumbs to or manipulate to benefit the people who are paying. And I want to see people get away from these distinctions because I think that they end up being harmful. Sure, if you want to differentiate between a paying customer and a non-paying customer, I'm not saying you can't or shouldn't do that, but I would say imagine that they're all customers because they're all part of your ecosystem. Everybody's in the ecosystem. The paying customer, the non-paying customer, the free trial user, the long free trial user, the person whose free trial is just ending. Everybody you can think of is in your ecosystem. Oh, hi, Anne. How have you been? So I try to tell people, think of it that way, that ultimately we're talking about experiences of anybody who's in your ecosystem. Some companies and systems have installers, maintainers, resellers. Think about some SaaS systems that are sold by resellers. For example, I just bought a giant battery. Some of you know about this, many of you don't. Some of you know that my power randomly goes out while I'm YouTube streaming. I decided I've had enough of that, and I bought a giant 5 kilowatt battery and home system. No, not from Musk. That where basically, if we have some small or medium power outages, the battery is going to flip on and I will stay on. So how did I get that? I didn't get it directly from the company. The company referred me to a reseller. I then had to do business with the reseller. My customer experience is mostly with the reseller. The reseller quoted me the price, sent me the invoice, I paid them, they shipped it, and it was a very positive experience. Once we plug that battery in and I start using it, who's my experience with? I could complain to the reseller, but they didn't make it. They just sold it to me, and they probably don't support it. Now I have to go back to the company. So that's why this is an ecosystem with kind of layers of people and all of these interconnected relationships. So I'd rather us take a look at these interconnected relationships. If I'm the manufacturer, I might say, okay, I have resellers. They're my customer, right? They buy from me, and then Debbie buys from them. So really, we could say the reseller is the manufacturer's customer. But the reseller wouldn't be the manufacturer's customer for long if there weren't people like me buying the system. I'm in the ecosystem. So I think we just have to be careful that whether we say CX or UX or anything else, there's lots of X's out there. Let's make sure we're talking to our teammates, our leaders, everybody about the ecosystem. Facebook might have paying customers, but if it all of a sudden had very few users to see the ads the people are paying for, this falls apart. YouTube has people putting up content like me right now. Don't forget to subscribe and press like and leave comments. And YouTube has consumers. You're watching this on YouTube right now, or maybe you're watching it on LinkedIn or Twitch, but let's say YouTube. And YouTube might say, okay, where do we really make our money? Maybe we make our money here, there. It's ultimately an ecosystem. The ecosystem doesn't work without people putting up content where the ads can be run and consumers viewing the videos where the ad money is then made. So going back to what Anne said, I thought CX was the experience with the entire company and UX is the experience with digital product. There are many definitions of CX, and that is one of them. But hypothetically, your experience with the entire company is made up of multiple experiences with you playing one or many roles. Part of your experience with the entire company is the digital product. It could be customer support, talking to humans. It could be salespeople. It could be resellers. It's all of these things. So to me, CX is all of these things. UX was originally intended to mean all of these things. UX wasn't originally defined as just digital screens. UX was supposed to mean what we now say CX to mean, but it got redefined along the way, probably not by us, since we don't tend, we don't want to minimize ourselves, though we do tend to minimize ourselves. So, again, to me, it's a hill not worth dying on. Just like I'm not going to fight people about UX, UI. I'll explain it if it comes up, but I'm not going to act like people are the devil for saying UI, UX, or UX, UI. I'm tired of dying on that hill. That is not where our entire industry is struggling. That is not why we're all getting laid off. We have other problems. So, yes, I think that CX is a great term. It encompasses pretty much everything, so I don't really see a need for a lot of the other X's that people are suggesting, EX, HX, all these other things. I think they're just not necessary. So thanks for that question and interesting conversation. This is Q&A AMA, and we're half done already. See the little timer on the screen? Whoa, we've got just about a half hour left. So if you'd like to ask a question, I'm live and I'm answering them for free. Oh, great, it's Cherish. See, I knew if I started streaming late at night, Italy time, we would get our North American friends back. So I am so happy to see you peeps. All right, let me get this pasted on the screen and let me also paste it. Hello from Utah, yes. Okay. Do you see Android users are treated different from iOS users? I'm seeing this and I don't understand why, given that Android has a large market share of mobile phones. Absolutely. It's a battle I've been having for almost 10 years, about 10 years. It is not new. So I'm an Android person, not sponsored. This is a Samsung S21 Ultra. So I don't even buy the newest phone out there. This is 3 years ago now, 2? I don't even remember. So I am a happy Android user. I don't think you could pay me to use iOS, but here's what I used to see. So at one company I used to work at, let's first talk about stereotypes. I do find that some people, especially iOS users, tend to have a stereotype. Now, again, not all of them, some of them, that Android is some sort of cheap phone for the lower class. It's a cheap phone for poor people, or, it's some sort of worse phone than the iPhone. And we used to hear things in UX like, iPhone users have more disposable income. And my thought was not after buying an iPhone. Android users don't have disposable income. They have to buy these cheap Android phones. And it just showed that there was a real lack of understanding about Android phones. And that can certainly happen if you are not an Android user and if you're not staying on top of Android phones and Android news. So in reality, and this has been true the whole time, it's just a lot of people may not have known about it, a flagship or high-level Android phone costs pretty much the same as a new iPhone. So my flagship Samsung S21 Ultra, when it was brand new, I was looking the other day at a Samsung phone and it was like $1,300, $1,400 euros. These are roughly the same numbers that you're going to see for iPhones. So do Android users have less disposable income? I think we made that up. Where's the data on that? I think that some Android users might be in different income brackets because one of the many great things about Android is there are many manufacturers making all kinds of phones at all different levels. As an example, let's roll over here. Hold on. Where did it go? Let's find the drawer of phones. All right, what's this? All right, great. Let's pull these out. All right. I've just gone into my drawer. Let's talk about Android phones. So, what's this? I don't even remember. This is an Oppo, O-P-P-O. I don't know if they're in America. They're here in Europe. So this is an Oppo, cheap phone, cheap as hell. Really nice phone. We were using it as a backup, and then the battery was swelling a little bit, so I stopped using it. And but cheap and really nice. But we ran it too hot too long, so the battery got a little funky. What's this? This is a Samsung J5. It's got to be like 10 years old. Still works. Cheap as hell. Bought it on Amazon used from God knows who. For what felt like nothing. $300, $250, $200, whatever it was. Works just fine. Wouldn't be great for me. I'm more of a power user, and I do tend to like the larger form factors. But you got so many options with Android. You've got lots of different sizes, which of course iPhone eventually copied. iPhone used to come in only one size. Now it comes in, 2, 3, 4 sizes. I lost track. Android, lots of different price points, lots of different brands, lots of different models. Anne says, I use Android also. It's not about income. It's about preference. I hate Apple's predatory practices. Cherish says, my understanding is that iOS is more restrictive when pushing apps to the store. Yeah, that can be true as well. iOS is usually a little stricter than Google. Google is getting better at things that should be restricted, but not as great. But when it comes to Android users being treated differently, because the stereotype is, Android is hey, you can get an Android for, $100 in some store and get a burner phone. Why is my phone making a funny sound? You can, I might need a phone. You can get an Android phone for $100 from some store somewhere. Oh, wow, these must be poor people. They must not have disposable income. And I've seen that used as an excuse to not make an Android app, or not maintain the Android app, or not bring new features into the Android app. Or in some cases, I've seen it used as an excuse to, just take our iOS app and just make it work on Android. And then there was nothing in the Android app that was native Android, because those of you who are Android know that there are some things that Android phones do that iPhones don't. And some companies are like, why bother doing that? Our Android users, blah, blah, blah. I once had a conversation with a product manager at a company, and they said, should we bother doing more with our Android app? And I said, probably. What data do you have? And they said, well, we definitely have more iPhone users than Android. And I said, okay. Now, I worked there, so I was familiar with their Android app. I think I was the only person in the building of 800 using an Android phone, or so it felt like on some days. I don't think I'd ever been in a meeting with someone who had an Android phone other than me. So nobody really used one day to day, but they said, look, we have a lot more iPhone users than Android. Maybe we should just really mostly support the iPhone app. So I said, well, let me show you our Android app on my phone, which wasn't this one, but it would have been some other one at the time. I said, here's what I expect it to do, and it doesn't do it. Here's something else I expect it to do. It doesn't do it. Here's something I expect to be able to tap on. I can't tap on it. Here's something you have that doesn't make sense to me because it's really an iPhone paradigm. Here's something that doesn't work very well for the size of my screen. How did this experience look to you? And everyone was kind of like, that's not very good. And I said, yeah, it's not very good. I said, is it possible that we have fewer Android users than iOS users because our app kind of sucks? And people were like, it does look like our app kind of sucks. And I said, well, let's take another slice of data. I said, have you sliced out the data for how much an iOS user tends to spend with our company, because it was e-commerce, versus how much does an iOS user spend versus an Android user? And they said, oh, yeah, we think we have that data. Hold on. They went through some papers and stuff, and they came back and they said, the average Android user spends noticeably more than the iPhone user. I said, okay, so we know that they spend more, yet we think of them as poor people with less disposable income, and we don't want to support the app better. I think we're done. I think the conversation's been had. If you don't want to prioritize improving the Android app, you don't have to. But, we have better data now. We know that these people spend more than the iPhone users, even with something that sucks this bad. They must actually like our company. Why don't we do better by them? And I think they decided not to. So I do see Android and iOS users treated differently. I really wish that impression would change. A flagship Android costs just as much as a flagship iPhone. It's not for poor people. I think people at all income levels like both phones. And maybe if you're at a lower income level, you get a used iPhone instead of a new one. We've done that here. We go to, I guess in America it's Gazelle, hashtag not sponsored. And here there's something, I think it's called Trend. We buy used stuff. If it works, don't fix it. Well, I don't know. So yeah, Cherish, is that somewhere in the neighborhood of what you were talking about? The way iOS owners and users are perceived differently than Android owners and users? I want to make sure I'm addressing your question correctly. And I apologize if I've gone off on this whole story universe and that was not what you were asking. What I'm noticing is people aren't thinking about it because nearly everyone at work is an Apple ecosystem. Yeah. And again, that's what I had. The company I just told the story about, same type of thing. I was like this was San Francisco. This was a tech job. And I felt like the only person in the building of 800 workers that had an Android. Whenever something was with Android, it was like, go find Debbie. You know, like they had to buy Android phones to give to some of the developers and QA testers. Like nobody had their own. They really didn't know about it. And I think that that's the bottom line, is that they really don't know about it. So, and if you're not creating stuff for Android or optimizing for Android, then even your internal data is going to be off. Because just like that story I just told, someone's going to go, oh, well, only 30% of our users are Android and 70% are iPhone. So clearly we should be investing more in iPhone. And then it's like, well, hold on, who's spending more? Oh, Android users? Definitely second-class citizen. I think the question is, who is our target audience? Sometimes your target audience has iPhones. Sometimes your target audience has either. Android, at least, I haven't checked lately, but around the world, it used to have a larger market share than iPhone. Let me see. Android market share USA. iPhone has a 58% market share in the USA, according to something I just found online. Yeah, it's roughly 58% to 41%. So in that sense, and this is just the USA, in that sense, iPhone has a greater market share, but you don't want to give a middle finger to 41% of your audience. Hypothetically, unless you know that most of your audience is on or all are on iPhones, if it's just regular humans, statistically speaking, 41% of them might be on Androids. Do you want to give the middle finger to 41% of your user base? So I think, this is one of those things where it's like, well, I have an app. Oops, sorry. I had the phone in a holder and it's just hit the ground. Did I mention it's almost midnight and I am ready to go to sleep? No, really, I'm happy to see all y'all. That's why I wanted to try these 11 at night ones to get more of North and South America. Yeah, whoops, of course, yeah. Oops, whoopsie. So this is why I also believe in pop socket. Put my own thing on the pop socket. They do not make Arian band pop sockets. Ana Lucia says, iOS does have more restrictions when publishing. That I can confirm. You only pay once to be able to publish to the Google Store. It's like 20 euros. Apple Store is paid yearly. Yeah, I do not know specifically about that. I haven't published an app to the store in over 10 years, so that I don't know. That I can't answer. But to me, that's not an excuse. There's always excuses. Oh, we don't want to publish to 2 stores. Oh, Google's going to make us open an account. Oh, Google's going to cost something. Oh, Google's going to take a percentage of sales. Oh, so is iOS. Oh, we have to hire Android knowledgeable programmers. Yeah, you freaking should if you want to do a good job. Look, there's always reasons to not do a thing. Think about the reasons to do a thing. There's got to be a way to find out what devices your target users tend to have. And if they are average American peeps, then probably 40-ish% have Android. I mean, think about that story I was just telling, where 30% of the company's users were Android, and that was back when Android probably had 40 to 50% of market share. It was pretty neck and neck with iPhone, but only 30% of our users were Android. But that's still a lot of people. You don't want to give the middle finger to 30% of your users. That's the question. At what number are you comfortable giving people the middle finger? Hello, Pete. Let's put Pete's question up. All right, and let me paste it in what will end up the YouTube description. All right, let's also blow it up a bit. Here we go. I'm considering starting a research and design agency aiming to help small to medium businesses improve experiences and increase conversions. From your point of view, what makes an agency stand out? I think starting a new agency can be very difficult because not only will you have to prove that you can do this, but you have to find the people who want this and think it comes from a research and design agency. Very often people think that marketing and increased conversions and better experiences, they often think it comes from the marketing team. And so they don't always know that it can or should come from a CX or UX or research and design type of agency. So what makes an agency stand out? I would probably have to say it's almost like what makes a portfolio stand out. Typically, especially a new agency is going to have to put case studies up on its site. We've got case studies on our site. Even the biggest companies in the world have case studies on their site. So I think you stand out by showing we can do this. And we can do this in a way that's going to work for you. Are you claiming that you're going to do very thorough work? Then you have to show how thorough work is a better investment than rushed work or workshopped work or fast work. So ultimately what makes you stand out is this is all about value proposition and marketing yourself. How do you show a company that you can solve their problem, that you are good at doing what they need done, and that you are the company to pick? Some of that is, think about the 4 Ps from marketing. What's your pricing? You might not want to put that on your site, but think about your pricing. What is your approach? Many agencies right now are just trying to sell fast. Mine is trying to sell quality. Delta CX is all about quality over speed. We'd rather a project take a few more weeks and deliver something awesome than be the fastest agency out there. We don't believe in minimum viable UX work. So I think it really depends on what niche or market or what your value proposition is. So, and then your website has to communicate that, but then you have to deal with how do you get people to even know about you. That's always been my hardest hurdle because I'm not a great marketer or a great, I don't have a lot of connections in the way that you might think. And so Delta CX is not a secret. People know it exists. But yet we sometimes don't have a lot of business. People imagine I am just up to my eyebrows in endless Delta CX projects. And we don't always get a lot of business because in some cases, we're priced higher than other people who charge less of an hourly rate. In some cases, we want to do a more thorough project when people think they want research and design done in 2 days. It's hard. You have to kind of decide who are you? What are you good at? And then you have to figure out how to find the companies that want that. But I feel like that's very hard right now with so many people in UX being laid off. What were the numbers we all saw? 70 jobs are down 70%. I feel like it's not you can do it, but it's not a great time where people are going, we should really invest in UX. It's more like, we should really lay off UX. So I think it's been a time when a lot of people who have been laid off have said, hey, I'm just going to be a consultant or I'm going to start my own business. But the open question that I can't really answer is, Where are you going to find that business? I don't have the answer. I'm not amazing at that when it comes to my own business. And so that to me is always the hardest part. To stand out, that means they found you. They found you and they're comparing you to something else and you're hoping to stand out. How do they find you? That's where this gets hard. It's really extra hard in a time when companies think UX is optional. We can just rush out guesses and sorry if you hear squishy sounds, I'm putting on cream. We can just rush out guesses and that's great product strategy. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for subscribing. Yes, everybody, please subscribe to the CX-CC channel on the YouTube. Florian says, do you have insights on the state of UX in medical sector? I'm not going to put that question up because the answer is no, but we are going to be doing some shows. I think they're in late February with people who work in medical and health UX, and those would be great people to ask. We're not going to be doing them as live streams. We're going to be doing them as part of our webinar series, so you'll definitely want to keep an eye on our events calendar. I don't know if they're in there yet, but I have a reminder to myself later this week to get them in the events calendar. So check the events calendar for 2 webinars we're going to do with people who work in different aspects of medical and health UX. They should know. And if they don't, shame. So yeah, sorry, I don't know. Happy New Year to you. I'm going to pronounce you Mickey. Tell me if that is not correct. Yeah, sorry I can't answer that one, but everybody knows I'd always rather be honest about what I can answer than to make something up or try to look like I know something I don't. Let's see, are there any anonymous questions coming in? No. We've got about 10 minutes left together, and then I'm rolling into bed. I've got my electric blanket on. I've got the heat on in the bedroom, and I am ready for sleeping. It feels like all I read about in UX is SaaS or e-commerce. Yeah, look, UX is everywhere in everything, and I don't know why so much is written about SaaS and e-commerce and not about these other areas. Maybe medical UX is a little bit later to the game, but I mean, again, you always have UX even if nobody in UX worked on it. There's always a user experience, even if you didn't have a UX professional working on it. Yeah, I don't know. Have you been looking around at LinkedIn newsletters or Medium articles? Maybe there's some Medium authors who specialize in this. I don't know. Maybe we can ask our panelists who will be joining, I think in late February. I have to check. And let's also check the calendar. This is going to be the only broadcasts this week. We're going to do light broadcasts in January as people wake up from the holidays. So the next one is going to be next Tuesday, and I think that's with Dr. Nick. So we'll be doing this again, but it will be at 3 p.m. Italy time, not what we're doing right now, which started at 11 p.m. Italy time, because right now where I am here, it's almost midnight. So we're going to do some shows at 11 my time and some shows at 3 my time. And again, if you miss any shows, they're all archived on the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and press lots of likes. Cherish says, will you be doing any content this year in UX in public sector? I've recently become terrified on how much of the world operates on poorly written surveys. Great question. I don't think we have anything planned, but I feel like these are maybe a couple of different topics. Like, for example, is your topic really about public sector, or is it really about how much the world runs on poorly written surveys? I mean, because that can happen everywhere. It happens in public sector. It happens in education. It happens, like, should this just be, I mean, I guess the question is, what's the topic of the show? Because we agree that a lot of surveys are written badly, analyzed badly, acted on badly, or not at all. And that a lot of people rely on surveys and think that this is good enough data. So I guess, Cherish, what's the topic of the show? Because we all already know this. We could talk about how to get away from that, but I don't know if people want to listen. They love their surveys. Let's see what Mickey's saying. What do you think service and experience design will be in 2024 for companies in the sustainability space? There aren't roles listed. How do I find about roles in those companies? I think there's 2 questions here, Mickey. What do I think service and experience design will be in 2024 for companies in the sustainability space? Can you give me an example of a company in the sustainability space? And looking at your second question, which I think is a separate question. If there aren't roles listed, how can I find out about roles in those companies? I don't think you can, unless you have a contact in a company. If a company is not listing its roles, the only way you can find out about a secret open job that they are not listing is to know leadership there, is to know HR, is to know internal recruiters. Cherish says, I need to find examples of how good CX is executed in the public sector, if that exists. Yeah, I don't know about it. Renewable energy or farming, carbon capture. Okay, so let's go back to your first question and throw that in. How to sell proper experience and service design in the public sector. Well, that sounds like it's got Thomas Wilson written all over it. Okay, so back to Mickey's first question. What do you think experience and service design will be in 2024 for companies in sustainable space such as renewable energy or farming, carbon capture? So you've got an entire question made up of everything I am not totally an expert in. Experience design, yes. Service design, a little. Sustainable space, I haven't worked in. Renewable energy, farming, carbon, haven't worked in. So this is probably not great for me to answer. So what do I think is going to happen in 2024? No clue. This is not my specialty. What do I hope is going to happen in 2024? More experience in service design in these spaces. But that also means more doses of reality, more people standing up and fighting stuff, more people saying when things are unethical, because there's things that I've heard about in these spaces that aren't what they claim to be. Like, for example, I think about food in America, which is just poison. And I think about how something can be GMO, but organic. And then it's sold to you as this great, healthy, organic thing. Meanwhile, it's GMO, which in my opinion is not necessarily a great, healthy thing. I am not a lover of GMO things. And so, yeah, I'd like to see more ethical things happening. I would like to see more service design happening in every sector, in every business, in every company in the world. More service design. You can't go wrong with more service design. And that goes way beyond hiring people and asking them to make a customer journey map and hang it on the wall. So unfortunately, I'm probably not qualified to give you a good prediction on this. These are not my areas of specialty, but I'm hoping that there will be more experience in service design in these areas and and more ethics. These are just some of the things I think, because we have to improve and fix these things. I don't know where to start. So to me, we need experience in service design, but we need climate experts, we need geologists, we need other types of scientists. It's not just experience in service design. It's really the whole arc of specialties that have to come together to address these things, in my opinion. Hey, someone from India. Oh my gosh. I hope you didn't wake up just for this. Thank you for being awake. No, go back to sleep. It's 4:23 and I'm going to be wrapping up for the day. Remember, some of these are going to be at 3 p.m. Italy time, which I guess will be 7:30 p.m. Am I getting that number right? In India. And then some of these are at a time when you should be sleeping. But we're going to try very different times so that we can make sure everybody in every time zone gets to attend some of these live shows. And remember, you can always find them archived on the CXCC YouTube channel in the Q&A AMA playlist, where I will go now and put this. And then I'll go to sleep and I'll make the thumbnail tomorrow because I am too tired. No, maybe I should make the thumbnail tonight before I forget. No, tomorrow. All right, I'm going to wind down the show. Our gong is going to go off in a minute anyway to remind us to wind down the show. So thanks to everybody who tuned in live. Great to see everybody. Happy 2024. I hope your dreams come true this year, and at least some of them. And let's see, what am I looking for? End of show. Yeah, there we go. We're going to be streaming just once, sometimes twice a week through January, and then we'll be starting up the webinar series again. Hey, thanks, Cherish. Have a great rest of your day. Ana Lucia, good night. Sleep well. People in India, go back to sleep. People in North and South America, thank you so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day. I am going to go to sleep. It's coming up on midnight here. But that's what works best for my work schedule. Let's see. Yes. Thank you, Florian. Yeah, I host this session every week, every Tuesday. Every Tuesday I am here. Sometimes 3 p.m. Italy time, sometimes 11 p.m. Italy time. Check the calendar, cxcc.to/events. There's even a way for you to add that to your calendar so you will always know when the shows are. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, press like, do whatever you can to help us out in the algorithm, and tell some friends. Yes, bedtime for sure. Thank you for the bed emoji. So why didn't the emoji come up on the screen? Oh, is my Stream Elements thingy broken? Let's try refreshing it, see if we get some emojis. Reload page. Yay. All right. We got a few emojis there. Oh, thanks again, everybody. It's nice to be back doing the shows. And, more emojis. Fantastic. Bring them on. So, again, thanks for coming. And, again, if you want to get in questions early for next week, you can send them any time of day or night here. They come into my email, and I save them up for our Tuesday show. Thank you for subscribing, and please do share with colleagues. All right, I'm going to fire us out of here, and I'll see everybody next week. Bye.